I should be at the hospital right now. I should be waiting for my brother to come out of surgery instead of waiting for Mr. Packer to figure out how to get through his history lesson. 15 minutes in a class, his screen's frozen, he's about a click away from throwing his laptop across the room. The whole class is staring at him like he's crazy. But he's not. He's just pissed. At his laptop, at his dead-end job, at everything. And I totally get it. I mean, I'm not supposed to understand some balding middle-aged teacher who's raging at life for screwing him sideways. But right now, I do. Because right now, I'm not any different than he is. I just haven't lost it yet. Mr. Packer's computer flickers, sputters, and then shuts itself down from what looks like the final time. He sucks in a sharp breath, grumbles to himself, and then slams his fist against his desk with a hard, loud thud. A couple kids in the front row freak out a little and start whispering about him the same way they whisper about everybody else. The same way they've been whispering about me. Tanner got admitted at Scripps Memorial on Saturday night. My parents forced me to go to school on Monday morning, and I've been the topic of everybody's side conversations ever since. After 2 days of girls gossiping every time I pass them in the hallways, low-key threats from Trevor's friends, and more than a few concerned chats with the student counselor, I mentioned to beg my dad to transfer me out of this place. But I already know he won't. I'm stuck here with his stares and whispers. And that's the problem with people here. They're all vultures, just like Brad and Stacy and everybody else who sucked at PBMS. They live for other people's drama like it isn't real, like other people's problems are as entertaining to watch as primetime television. I wish I could do that. Watch from the sidelines, live out my life like I don't have any real issues aside from the ones I decide to make up for myself. The biggest thing the kids here are probably worried about is whether or not they can get through the rest of Packer's lesson without having to watch another breakdown. Meanwhile, all I'm thinking about is whether or not my brother will wake up. Tanner went under a couple hours ago, but everything's been quiet on the text front since then. I'm not even trying to hide the fact that I have my phone in class, which is totally against the rules. But screw it. I don't care about rules or detention or demerits today. I care about my brother. A new notification buzzes in my pocket and my heart stops beating for a couple seconds as I scramble to read it. Josh. Again. Checking in, which I appreciate, but I don't have the heart to respond to him right now. I want to say that I'm fine, that sitting here waiting on my parents to text while the clock keeps ticking isn't bothering me. But I'm losing it. Slowly. I've chewed my pencil down to the point where I can taste the yellow paint chips on my tongue. My notebook's open and full of questions scribbled all over the margins. Nothing about the U.S. history, not even the date or my name written anywhere on the page. Just emptiness filled with questions nobody's answering. I type out another text to my mom asking how she's doing, even though I already know the answer. Sending it won't make a difference on how scared she is or the fact that she won't be calm enough to respond to me until Tanner's out of surgery. But I send it anyway, hoping. Mom pops up online for the first time all morning and I nearly fly out of my seat just to run out of class and call her. Her response cements me to my chair. Hi, mijo. Tanner's not out yet. Complications. I'll call you when I know more. Te amo. My pulse pounds its way through my temples as I read her words over and over again. Complications. There weren't supposed to be any complications. Last night, the doc said that Tanner's procedure was supposed to be safe, easy. He's young, he's healthy, no reason to worry. He'll be in and out in less than 3 hours. It's been 5.5, and nobody seems to know what's happening. I should be there, even though Tanner would want me here, paying attention in class like a good student instead of stressing out over him. But I don't know how to make it stop. I'm trying to keep it together, but I can't focus on anything else but him being hurt, Mom being worried, and Dad being pissed. at the hospital, at Trevor, at me. My lungs expand and collapse inside my chest and then decide to stop working altogether. Barbed wire panic wraps itself around my airways and pokes a million little holes in any hope I had of being able to calm myself down. The classroom tilts and I grip the sides of my desk a little too hard. The legs screech across the linoleum a little too loud and everybody turns to look at me. I shut my eyes so the merry-go-round of people whispering and staring stops. But I still feel them watching. Mr. Packer barks out my name from the front of the room and then asks me the one question I don't want to answer. Elias? Wrong. Always. Is everything alright? Afraid not. Nobody's ever satisfied after sloppy seconds. I snap my head in the direction of the voice responsible for that comment, only to spot a pair of jocks sitting 2 rows away from me, high-fiving each other. I don't recognize either of them. I don't even have the energy to try. I force myself to look back at Mr. Packer and go back to pretending like I'm not even half as humiliated as I feel. Can I be excused, Mr. P? I ask, stuttering loud enough for people to notice. Yeah, let him go, Packer. Nicky's calling. It doesn't even matter who says it this time. Whether it was one of Nicky's friends or Trevor's goons, the outcome's still the same. The whole class breaks out in laughs while I'm trying my best not to break down, not to cave, not to lose control. I get to my feet, grab my backpack, and beeline for the door to get away from the noise. I'm not even 3 steps across the classroom when a single sound makes the whole room go silent. Mr. Packer, when the office sent me here to pick up my son, I didn't expect to walk in on a circus. If you're interested in keeping your position here, I highly suggest that you control your students, especially when it comes to ridiculing their peers. Let's go, Elias. My dad's standing in the doorway, eyes deadlocked on Mr. Packer like they're squaring off in court. I don't know why he's here. He's never picked me up. Always too busy, always in meetings, which means something's wrong. I slide my backpack higher up onto my shoulder and walk out of the classroom, staring at my feet so I can focus on the floor instead of the people staring at me. My dad takes a few slow strides ahead of me before he stops in his tracks. His hands are buried deep in his pockets, but the non-stop jingling of his keys keeps giving his nerves away. When he finally turns around to face me, his whole face is rigid, awkward, like the muscles around his jaw suddenly turn to stone. Your brother. Breathe, Elias. Breathe. Your brother just got out of surgery. The doctors handled his complications just fine. I thought you'd like to see him as soon as he woke up, so I don't know what it is about how he says it, or if it's the way he can't exactly look at me when he does. But for the first time in a while, I see flickers of a father I never thought he would be. One who acknowledges me. One who's there. He hasn't picked me up from school or even asked about it since his promotion at work gave him an excuse to stop being a parent. But he's here now. And maybe it's a one-time thing. Maybe Mom asked him to do this. Maybe he's lost it. But that's the thing. I don't care what his reasons are right now. I just care that he's here. I stumble across the locker-wide space between the both of us and do something I'll probably regret. I reach out for him. I set myself up for what might be the biggest mistake of my life, but I'm so tired and so weak from worrying myself sick that if I don't hold on to someone or something, I'll fall apart. My head falls against the lapels of his suit and I breathe in the same scent that he's worn since I was 6. Old Spice aftershave. The same bottle he used to let me play with when I was still small enough to be allowed into him and Mom's room. I remember that version of my father. The one who'd play with me and Tanner on the carpet, let us wear his ties and walk around in his office shoes when our feet were way too small to fit the soles. I remembered him smiling at the both of us, smiling and laughing before seriousness made a permanent impression on his face. He was warm back then, and as stupid and pointless as it is, That's the version of him I'm reaching for now. I hold on to him, holding my breath as seconds pass between us in total silence. He doesn't move, doesn't touch me. He just waits for me to let him go, which I eventually do. I immediately go back to staring at my shoes instead of at him. I can't. Not after embarrassing myself like that. Not after making myself look small in front of him. Again. He lightly taps me on the shoulder, which is the most and least he can do, and I try not to let him see how much it's killing me. Things will be fine, Elias. I'll see to it that they will. If your classmates bother you again, tell me. Because I wanted to stop? Because you're my son? Because I love you? Because it'll help with the case I'm building against that Larson boy, and it'll help your brother. Not you. Never you. We'll do that. We'll do. Dad speeds most of the way to the hospital, only for the nurse on duty to tell him to sit down and wait. She's older, wearing short-cut, faded brown hair that looks like she's half given up on dying. She stares up at the two of us behind her black-rimmed glasses and squints hard enough for a million wrinkles to pop up around her eyes. She's got the kind of hard lines in her face that would convince most people to back off before messing with her. But my dad's not in the mood to back down. She slides 2 visitors' passes in my dad's direction, but he doesn't lift a finger to take them. Instead, he crosses his arms and clicks his teeth so she knows how disappointed he is. She takes the hint, but ignores him anyway. Touché.
Is there something else I can do for you, sir?
Everything he wants?
Yes, I was told my son was out of surgery a half hour ago, so I'm curious,
Pissed.
as to why we're still being asked to wait to see him.
Dad flashes her one of his political smiles, tight, controlled, aggressive. Usually it works. It always has on me. But she doesn't flinch. I like her more than she knows.
Surgeon's request. He's being monitored after minor complications at the moment.
I'm aware of complications, ma'am. The last nurse I spoke to said the situation would be handled by the time I got back with my son.
Dad's voice shoots up in volume, which he only barely manages to get in control at the last second. A handful of nurses throw stares in our direction, and I swallow the secondhand embarrassment like always. It's not like if I spoke up to stop him, he'd listen. He doesn't listen to anyone.
We'll update you once we have more information. Have a seat, please.
Nurse No-Go gestures to the general waiting area, which sets off a million little control freak alarms in my dad's brain. It's weird, watching him struggling to keep it together, doing his best not to fall apart. He's worried about Tanner. He doesn't have to say it for me to see it, but I pretend not to notice, just like I pretend to not notice a lot of things. Dad turns to me and points in the direction of a long green corridor stretching out past the ER towards the hospital chapel.
Eli, go and get your mother for me. I'll have this little incompetence problem sorted out by the time you get back.
I nod and do exactly as he says so I can disappear out of the conversation before it spirals out of control. I walk past the shoebox of an ER waiting room where me, Mom, and Dad slept for most of Saturday night. It's not supposed to be a good memory, and most of it isn't, but looking out, I still see the 3 of us huddled together on the back wall. Mom stayed up past midnight with me passed out on one shoulder and Dad on the other. She was the strongest one of the 3 of us that day, which is how it's always been, I guess. The next morning, Dad was up bright and early, harassing the doctors for an update. He went right back to being cold and distant like he always is, but at least for a couple hours, we really felt like a family. It was the first night in a long while where nobody screamed at each other, or fought, or showed up too late to say goodnight. We were all here, stuck together in a situation we couldn't control, struggling to love each other in the kind of silence none of us are used to. I can't say I miss the stress, but I miss the closeness, even if it's an illusion. I shake off the memory when I nearly crash into a kid a couple of nurses are wheeling by on a heavy-duty hospital bed. He's in bad shape. Wires sticking out of everywhere possible and half of his head bandaged up like he's hiding a horror story behind all the gauze. He can't be much older than me, maybe a junior or sophomore at best, which is why nothing about his situation makes sense. He shouldn't be here. Nobody should. Life's better when you can walk around outside, far away from places like these, pretending you're invincible. But this kid is nothing but a reminder of how far that is from the truth. I freeze up as he passes by and watch the nurses roll him away until he disappears into the ICU. I don't ever want to know what happens behind those doors. I thank God that Tanner didn't end up in that wing the night they brought him in. I was scared out of my mind that Trevor had done something the doctors couldn't fix and that we'd end up like one of those families who loses a son because of somebody else's mistakes. Because of my mistakes. Luckily, we didn't. But that doesn't stop the truth from what could have happened from eating away at me and Mom. I've watched her live out every what-if moment for the past 4 days. I've seen it strip away her sleep and keep her up nights in prayer. Ever since Tanner got here, she spent every day thanking God for giving her a little more time with her son. I should be right there with her, down on my knees, begging for forgiveness for the things I did, for the situation my parents can't ever know I caused. Mom and Dad still think all of this was an accident, that Trevor was some jock with a mean streak who had it out for my brother. Wrong place, wrong time situation. A brutal case of high school bullying. All lies that they can live with. Ones that stopped the fighting in our house for the first time in I don't even know how long. So I'll let them keep living it for a little while longer and hope to God that Tanner won't tell them the truth.